Welcome to Scorched Earth and the general reading for the sign of Cancer, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of April. I hope you are well. We are using the Crow Tarot for you today. If the reading resonates and you would like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended at the end of this. The link to that is down in the description box below. Obviously, if you are a member of my Patreon community, you get access to all that extended stuff for no extra cost. So let's get straight on with this Cancer. The 3 cards for Cancer, please. Oh, there's 2 in your recent past. We have the 7 of Cups and the King of Swords. Current energy, please, for Cancer. 2 of Swords. Interesting. And what is coming towards Cancer, please? Thank you. We've got the Hanged Man. Okay. At the bottom of the deck, we have the 10 of Cups, and it's followed by the 9 of Pentacles and the 9 of Cups. Interestingly enough, I'm going to show you all those there. There they are. So there's definitely a collective spirit to the reading here in terms of your focus. It was seeing a collective. A collective what? The 10 of Cups is all about emotional fulfillment, right? But more than just you. But because the 2 cards underneath it were both numbered 9 and very much speaking about the individual, it is therefore the energy that you put in to creating this, harmonious situation. Essentially, you've got some decisions to make. I see this very, very clearly, actually. You've got some decisions to make about the well-being of more than just you. And this could be your family, this could be your friends, this could be your community generally. But there's an indication that what you want, what you need, what brings value to your life, and what you can bring to the table is really essential for the functioning well of whatever this community situation is, collective situation. Let me shut the window so I don't get all rari. Tell me about this 7 of Cups and the King of Wands. We have the 4 of Cups. Interestingly, the card that's just jumped out here doesn't even belong to this deck, but it's the Empress. I'm going to pop that down there. Tell me about the King of Swords and that. And there's the 2 of Swords again. Tell me about the 2 of Swords. We've got the Hierophant and we've got the Knight of Pentacles there. And tell me about the Hanged Man for Cancer, please. With the 2 of Pentacles. A lot of earth in this reading here. We've got the Hanged Man. And we have the Ace of Cups. We've got the King of Cups at the bottom of the deck there, Scorpio energy. There's a lot of you stepping up here, Cancer. I feel that quite strongly here. It's all about you, although it's not about you. It seems to be about, everybody else, but the way in which you go about the things in this situation being actually the pivotal, important thing. So, in the absence of my selenite, I'm just going to fiddle with this instead. We've got the 7 of Cups and the King of Swords in your recent past, and this is quite interesting because this card here is all about emotional confusion, right? It is being in the dark about things quite often. Sometimes it's about having far too many choices and there being a sort of analysis paralysis. You kind of sat in the middle of it and going, well, I don't actually know what to do for the best here. But sometimes it also talks about illusion. It talks about things not appearing quite as they seem, and it behooves you to try and work out which is the right cup here for you moving forwards. The King of Swords is associated with decision making, but it's also about clear expression of communication, whether that's internal or external. So like the way that you're thinking about things or the way that you are actually talking to people about things. But it does speak to there being a need for clarity. To be quite honest, if you were in this state, the King of Swords is probably a good ally to be able to, as an energy, to look at this and try and work out what is useful in all this, Though the Queen of Swords is the one that I would credit with being able to discern the facts and the truth of the matter out of a great deal of information. This is actually being presented with something a little bit more stark. It's like, here's all the relevant information. How do you feel about this? And the chances are you felt quite confused. We've got these clarifying cards down here of the Four of Cups, the Empress, and the Two of Swords. Again, coming to this like need to make a decision, but it's slightly more nuanced here. We've got the Four of Cups. Now, this is a card that tends to stalk you a little bit, Cancer. It's often given to do with rejection, whether it's you doing the rejecting or somebody else rejecting you. Sometimes it's considerations of whether the actions or the decisions that you are about to undertake might lead to a rejection of people. And I notice that the Empress has kind of turned away from this Four of Cups here. It's almost like this really strong sense of not quite knowing what to do for the best. You know, the Empress is the divine feminine. She's the Queen of Queens. And when it comes down to decision making, obviously, you know, she's also the archetypal mother. So there's that matriarchal kind of energy. And so this could be something to do with your children. It could be something to do with your family. But there's a need for abundance. That's an interesting thing. I was going to say there was a desire, but it's not. It's a need for abundance. It's a need to feel grateful for things. But I think it's a need to make a decision that leads to the abundance for yourself and others, despite the fact that the other people's input into this seems to be the thing that's kind of keeping you stuck at this point. It's almost like perhaps other people haven't considered that it should be you making a decision that affects them, when realistically and logically you look at it and actually that is entirely appropriate. Or whether you're slightly uncomfortable with making the decision, Cancer. I think that that's possibly true too. You know, the Two of Swords is often given to be that state of ignoring your intuition and trying to make purely a logical decision. But you need to remember that you are a highly sensitive creature. You are a creature of water. And so your emotions and your intuition, as symbolized there by the moon in the top of the card, really should be playing a very big part in any decision that you make. But there's I don't feel like this Four of Cups is necessarily yours. I think if it is yours, it's been the potential for it to feel like you are excluding someone or rejecting someone or rejecting something. But I'm looking at this broken egg that's sat here on this Empress's lap, and it's almost like you need to break some omelets. You need to break some eggs to make some omelets. That's actually something that's been coming through for all of the signs so far. You know, I do feel like all of the signs are being pushed somewhat out of their comfort zones at the moment. And we can totally see that with that Seven of Swords there. We can see that with that, in fact, all of these cards here. You feel like you're being pulled several different ways. And this Empress is wearing a crown, but it's a crown of thorns. See that there? And so it's almost like the power rests with you. But it's somewhat of a bittersweet situation. Like, yes, you get to be in charge, you get to direct where this is going, but you're not quite sure what to do for the best. You're not quite sure what direction to take this in. And we see this, you know, kind of bleeding through into the current energy of Cancer right here, because here it is again, this Two of Swords. It's not quite knowing what to do for the best. But the message is you need to look deep within yourself, because I feel like The decision is already made. It's the consequences that you're struggling with here, Cancer. And we've got the Hierophant and the Knight of Pentacles down below, and these are both cards of commitment. They're both earth energy. It's Taurus and Virgo respectively, and they do really talk about the act of committing yourself to something. When particularly with the Hierophant, this is a long lasting thing, but the Hierophant can talk about, you know, business. It can talk about social institutions, you know, the church, and even marriage and whatnot. I mean, it's possible that some of you are considering whether to stay in a marriage or whether to leave. Some of you are wondering whether to escalate a relationship, possibly. And that might be where the not quite knowing what to do for the best is coming in, because of everything that you've learned in the last year or so. Right? In terms of your relationships, there is that predisposition towards codependency, and sometimes when you become aware that that's a thing that you experience, it can make you keep relationships at arm's length just a little bit. It's like, I know I have a habit of kind of over-investing, so I don't want to move until I'm comfortable, even though perhaps your intuition and your emotions are saying, yeah, but this is important. Still there's that But with the number of pentacles and the amount of earth energy here, we could see this being any other sort of thing too. So it doesn't need to be a relationship. It could actually be about, you know, what you do for work. I mean, maybe you're a bit of a workaholic, actually. And because you know that about yourself. As an opportunity has come up, and there is an opportunity here, it's hiding here somewhere, it's not making itself obvious, but it's because it requires hard work, determination and commitment to be able to expose it fully. Let me pull another card here, because there's something else going on underneath. I can feel it, but I just can't quite get to it. Why is this Hierophant here? Cancer, please. We've got the Chariot. That's your card. We've got the Chariot and we've got the Lovers. More cards of decision making going on here, but also cards of balance. And you'll notice that this theme is coming out everywhere, right? From the two swords that are held balanced by this woman, the two swords that the Crow is balancing on here too. And then the Chariot, which is very concerned with balance and equilibrium, but also a sense of self. This is very, very strong with this card, you know, self-determination, self-motivation, self-discipline, autonomy, knowing where you're going, knowing what it is that you want to commit to, without being frightened of anything in between, you know. Feel for some of you, there's been a realization of your own power recently, and now where the issue is knowing how to exercise that wisely. Almost like you've gone, fuck, I am actually really powerful. Shit, what do I do now? You know? We've got the Lovers card as well. It's a card of Gemini, which it's conscious co-creation, right? Both of these talk about making decisions and moving in a forward direction, you know, aligning with energies to see where they take you, or hopefully taking you, as this is a card of manifestation here, to exactly what it is that you want. And I think that a lot of you want commitment, but I think that a lot of you are questioning yourself too. And I don't think that that's a bad place for you to be, because self-examination is incredibly important for moving forwards, you know, particularly if, you know, what's in front of you is something that feels like a situation where you could potentially lose yourself again. Because the message here is to move slowly. There's the Chariot can move quite swiftly, but often it is depicted as entirely static. It is that moment just before movement. And then with the Hierophant and the Knight of Pentacles, this is go very, very slowly. You know, you don't have to rush into anything. And I feel like the Two of Swords here is actually because there's almost like a dam bursting kind of feel about it. Like if you let yourself go so far, then the dam will burst wide open, and then everything will come out, all of the emotions, the potential for over-investing, whether it's in a relationship or even in your work, in overworking and stuff like that, is there. And you're not sure that you can hold it back, except that there's something quite critical here, big life decision that's in front of you. It feels like it's coming off the back of your ability to experience a situation that is functionally similar to one that you've had before, and yet make a different set of decisions about it. Because it isn't always just about choosing right every single time. In fact, that, is not very likely. Instead, it's about changing the way that you do things so that the likelihood of you coming to the correct judgment is more possible for you. So rather than going, right, it's either on or off, all or nothing, going, well, let's just take it slow. I'm going to just creep into this a little bit and see how I feel, right? The Knight of Pentacles is often a card of stopping and taking stock and making sure that everything's still pristine and exactly where you want it before then moving again. Whereas with the other Knights, we see movement over everything. There's a sense here with the Knight of Pentacles that what is precious and what needs to be preserved, is first and foremost in your mind. And so moving slowly and checking each time that you are comfortable with where you are, reflecting on how you feel about this, and looking for the telltale signs that you're about to completely overdo something, and then being able to pull back and there not be any sense of anything difficult for you that comes with that. Because boundaries, they shift around and they move as and when necessary, depending on the situation, right? Boundaries is something that you struggled with a lot. It's not like you have to constantly just be peeking over the top of a fence that is, permanently erected, because that will end up being a wall eventually. It's sometimes knowing that you can take that fence with you and go, well, I'm going to kind of push this out a little bit. Or, maybe you're allowed in, whoever you are over there, whatever situation this is, we'll put this boundary back a little bit, give you a bit more space, and then I can observe you a little bit more and see what's going on here. There seems to be a fear of repeating past mistakes. And whilst that is entirely possible, it's not because of the details of the situation. It's about the way that you respond to it, So yes, this may feel like something that you've experienced before, but because the way that you're dealing with it is different, because we've discovered that there's somewhere in between on and off, all or nothing, you can keep moving at your pace, a pace that feels comfortable to you, What you've got coming towards you in April is interesting, because you've got the Hanged Man. Now, this could be a pause. That's possible. Often the Hanged Man is associated with a lack of movement. It's a highly passive card, right? So it's just literally hung upside down from a tree. You're not going to do much movement there. Stopping and waiting to make sure that you have all of the information before you take the next step, right? But this ability to be able to see things from a different perspective goes hand in hand with wisdom, always, because it does, because there's the new information that's coming in, right? But it's slow. It's all slow. And I think, let's not get ahead of myself here. It's also to do with submission and sacrifice. And these are two things that you understand very well, Cancer. But I feel like in the past you've done them too often, and you've done them rather freely. And the change of perspective could be on what it is to submit and sacrifice when it's done from a healthy place rather than a codependent place, or a needing of validation from other people kind of place. But it seems to me very much that it's validating the message that has come before, which is slow and steady and at a pace that suits you, all parts of you, rather than letting the dam burst. Because we've got the Two of Pentacles and the Ace of Cups appearing underneath there. Now the Two of Pentacles is a card of kind of juggling, it's kind of sorting, but what it felt like to me when I was looking at it just there was processing. So what we've got is, you know, a change of perspective possibly that is coming from doing things slowly, you know, very measured progression. And then taking the time to assimilate what it is that you're feeling, what it is that you understand, and your level of investment in everything. Because I see Pentacles as energetic currency. Anything that you can invest becomes a pentacle, whether it's your time or your care or your effort or your money or whatever. And what you don't want to do is to throw yourself in balls deep into everything all the time, when you know that this leads inexorably to the kind of situations that you have been struggling with your entire life. So rather than keeping those at arm's length, it's about managing that, it's about processing that. For you, it seems like April is quite a slow month, but deliberately so. Almost like that's the way that you guarantee your success, is by going much slower than you might do ordinarily, and giving yourself time to make sure that the level of investment that you are putting into X, Y, and Z is actually keeping you on the path of where you want to go, rather than, you know, like I said, repeating old patterns and potentially falling into something akin to self-sabotage. But the thing that I really like about this whole thing is that we've got the Ace of Cups there. Now that can sometimes mean new love, and certainly we've got a reading where we've got the Lovers and we've got the Hierophant. You know, there's a level of unity here, emotional unity, that it would be remiss of me to ignore. But I tend to see the Ace of Cups as the way that one feels about oneself, right? It's that self-generating well of emotion, a good emotion, positive emotion that we hold about ourselves. It's about new love or a renewal of love for oneself. And it seems to me like it's an act of self-love to take whatever you are doing very slowly at this point, right? Don't give yourself an opportunity to hugely regret what it is that you're doing. I don't think that you will. But this, again, this is not about what it is you're doing. It's about the way that you are doing it. It's becoming very reflective as you are in the act of doing things. It's becoming reflective prior to the point where you've gone too far and you do something that then, you know, you can see later on down the line was kind of a mistake. It's, in some ways, I mean, and now it sounds kind of negative to say, but it's kind of like it's noticing those pretty red flags as you go skipping down the road, you know, towards a situation and acting accordingly. But actually it feels a bit more positive than that. This is not you barreling into a situation that is replete with red flags. It is more like understanding that at times in the past you have skipped merrily down a road and gone, gosh, aren't they pretty, and ignored them completely. Whereas now you're a bit wiser, you see things differently, and you are the most important thing in any decision that you make. And so, is this right for me? Needs to be a question that you ask yourself a lot here, Cancer. Not, is it right for them? Do I make them feel good? Do I get some sort of value from, you know, seeing them light up? I mean, that's a nice thing, but it's got to be put to one side while you first consider whether this is right for you. And like I said, this doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. This could be familial, it could be, you know, friends, it could be whatever. It would be a work situation too. We can take it as it resonates to you, but it's a question of knowing where you go by default and making sure that the next step that you take isn't just out of doing it out of default, but it's because it's the right thing to do. It's the thing that honours you moving forwards. It's building a foundation, Cancer, that is a little stronger than what you might have experienced before. Because I think with the cards that came out in the recent past, it's almost like the pendulum swung a little far the other way, and ideally what we want is to find that middle place. So it's not about huge overinvestment in people or situations or whatever, and it's also not about holding everything at arm's length. It's about learning to manage yourself, because that's where the power is for you. When you can manage your reactions, when you can think about things before you do them, when you can hold yourself at front and center is the most important thing that you need to take care of, right? It will change the flavor of the next step for you. And it might be that actually you need to go off this way a little bit, but giving yourself the time to consider it at each point will put you in the best place for it. That is the true action. Oh, look at that, of the King of Cups. Right? The King of Cups isn't an emotional monster, just somebody who's completely consumed by their emotions. This is somebody who is very comfortable in their emotions, but does not let them rule them. Right? It's not getting knocked off that throne anytime soon. But notice it's here with the Chariot, right? That is about the movement, but it's also about the self. And at the end of the day, Cancer, you are the one who is in control of this Chariot here. So if things feel like they're moving a little bit faster than you're comfortable with, then you just pull on the reins, you pull everything to a halt, and you say, no, I need time to process this. I need to make sure that I'm comfortable with it before I choose the next step. And for some of you, this is definitely relationship based. Well, whether it is a marriage breaking down or a marriage, potentially in the offing, or whether it's just two people coming together and being like, hey, you look interesting, or whether it is your work, whatever it is, the relationship component of it is quite important, but it needs to come after you and your emotions, right? This is something that you need to train yourself into, and this looks like it's a perfect month for that happening. So I'm going to leave it there, Cancer. I'm going to go over to Vimeo now, and we're going to pull apart March a little bit and see what's going on there, see if we can't give you a bit more advice on how to deal with things. But if you take nothing else away, it really is that put yourself first and just step by step, little bit. It doesn't feel frustrating to me for you to do that. It actually feels quite liberating, because it's that realization that it's like, oh, I can just not do the whole switch on and off thing. Like, I can actually maneuver and check that I'm comfortable first. That's a really cool thing. So yes, like I said, off to Vimeo. I really hope that this has helped. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I will see you soon.